Hello and welcome back to an overview of curriculum development. This is video part 2. We're going to now cover curricular areas and some considerations. So to strike the right balance and develop sufficiently individualized curricula for students with autism, other developmental disabilities, and intellectual disability, it's critical that teachers engage in a continuous, thoughtful, deliberate, and systematic process to logically construct a meaningful and effective curriculum for each student. That's why in the next several sections of this unit, we'll discuss various curricular areas, certain considerations, a model procedure for developing curricula, and steps involved in curricular refinement and formatting curricula. Here are our objectives. Objective 3 is to discriminate between the trajectory of students focused on either of 3 types of curriculum: academic, functional, vocational curriculum. Then, identify how standardized curricula are developed and organized. Identify a critical difference in how individualized and standardized curricula are developed and organized. Identify disadvantages of the standardized academic curriculum. Identify the age that transition planning is recommended and the age that it is required by IDEA 2004. Identify the relation between transition planning, post-school options, and curricular areas. And then discriminate between 1. Post-school options for students with autism, and 2. Academic, vocational, and functional curricular areas. Let's look at the basic academic curriculum first. With this curriculum, in other words, basic academic curriculum is interchangeable with standard academic curriculum. The goal is to produce a well-informed citizen, attend college, and acquire a profession. Examples of academic curricular areas include computer literacy, reading, writing, mathematics, history, personal care. Areas within the standard academic curriculum would be physical education, home economics. And examples of curricular areas within fine arts for a standard academic curriculum would be music and art. Now let's compare that to a vocational curriculum where the goal is different. The goal this time is for the student to master a trade. So curricular areas would include industrial arts, business, and auto mechanics. ASR 9, a student's curriculum should include vocational skills training if after high school they want to be A, community college student, B, a computer programmer, C, a plumber, or D, none of the above. Give you a few more seconds. Alright, I'll go ahead and close the poll. The answer here is C, a plumber. Community college is out because you wouldn't target vocational skills training to prepare the student to attend college. And then computer programmer is out, again, because you wouldn't include vocational skills training to address preparing the student for a profession. And computer programming wouldn't be considered a trade. Okay? But plumbing would be definitely considered a trade. It doesn't fit into, quote, a profession, or it's not related to being a well-informed citizen or attending college. Standardized curricula are developed and organized by grade level, content area, and student age. They're not developed and organized based on students' individual needs, goals, levels of functioning. And they're usually determined by the state. Those standardized academic curricula are usually determined by the state. So for example, a high school student may graduate 9th grade and move on to 10th grade, even though they read and write at a 7th grade level. In other words, they're going to move on to the curriculum, the standardized academic curriculum that's provided to 10th graders, even though what they really need is an individualized curriculum that addresses their reading and writing levels at the 7th grade level. Okay. ASR 10. Standardized curricula closely conform to students' individual needs. Is that A, true? or B, false? A couple more seconds. We're to close the poll, and the answer here is B, false. ASR 11. Standardized curricula are usually determined by the state. Is that A, true, or B, false? A couple more seconds. We're to close the poll, and the answer here is A, true. Now, individualized curricula are determined by a team of educational professionals. These are the members of the IEP team, based on the results of a thorough assessment of the individual student's needs, current levels, and short-term, long-term, and intermediate goals. And there are some disadvantages of the standardized academic curriculum that your text highlights. One is that students may not have mastered the prerequisite skills to be successful. So that's related to the notion that the standardized curricula is not developed based on students' individual needs. It's determined by the state. For example, a student with autism expected to learn to tie their shoes independently, but suffers from deficits in crossing the midline. Crossing the midline means to be able to move the right hand across the middle of the body, or move the right hand across the middle of your body to pick up an item or to set an item down. That's crossing the midline. All right, that's a skill that would have to be taught before a student would reach over to their shoe to tie their laces. A student with autism expected to participate in activities in a general education classroom, but has not mastered following basic one-step instructions consistently. Those are examples of not having mastered prerequisite skills to be successful. Some students learn at a slower or a faster rate than others. One student requires hundreds of trials to learn certain math facts, while another student learns them in 5 to 10 trials. But both students are expected to move to the next step in the curriculum at the same pace. See, that's a disadvantage of providing a student with a standardized academic curriculum, in particular students with autism, DD, or ID. It's a major problem because these students learn at faster or slower rates than others, so they can't be expected to move along with a group of peers all at the same rate. And then misalignment of current skill levels in curricula unfortunately can have a snowball effect where the student continues to fall more and more behind and may lead to the development of challenging behavior. All right. So those are 3 disadvantages of the standardized academic curriculum. IDEA 2004 mandates transition planning for post-school activities beginning no later than 16, but it is recommended that IEP teams start as early as 14 years old. So what's transition planning? Well, it's defined as a results-oriented process leading to improved academic and functional achievement for the purpose of facilitating a student's movement to post-school activities. So transition planning is really all about setting up short-term and long-term goals to ensure the student will be prepared to be successful as they transition out of high school and into some other setting. Transition planning, post-school options, and curricular areas are related. Okay, so I'm going to talk briefly about how they're related, but this will begin to make more sense as I continue. Curricular areas are tool subjects, academic subjects, fine arts, vocational, functional domains, personal care. Those are listed on page 98 of your text. And they're emphasized based on the student's apparent post-school trajectory. In other words, depending on where the student is likely to end up after school, once they graduate or once they leave school, what you would do is, as you develop their curriculum, as early as age 14, which is recommended, but maybe at age 16, which is the law, you would draw from these different curricular areas based on their trajectory. Right, so transition planning involves selecting goals within appropriate curricular areas to ensure smooth transitions between phases of schooling: middle, high school, post-school. So, for example, what happens is that the student the student's goals and needs are going to differ at each stage of schooling, right? So the skills a child needs when they're in childcare is different than what they would need at the preschool stage, and those skills are different than what they would need at elementary school age, middle school, high school, and post-school. And 3 general post-school settings are college, employment, and living. So I'll give you some examples here. So in preschool, some basic skills the student would need to be successful to transition to elementary school would be that they need to be toilet trained, follow basic instructions, can attend to ongoing activities for several minutes, learns through observation, drinks from cups and eats table textured foods, accepts no, waits when asked, takes turns. So those are just examples of skills that would need to be mastered in preschool to successfully transition to elementary school. Those aren't all the skills a student would need, but those are some. Similarly, to transition from elementary school to middle school, they would need some examples are being completely independent with self-care skills, minimal challenging behavior, follows multi-step instructions, follows routines independently, identify letters and numbers, for example. Alright, so in order to successfully transition to high school, the student might need to be able to use transportation to and from school, maintain a schedule, manage one's own belongings, use money to purchase lunch. Right? Now, skills they would need to successfully transition to post-school settings, depending on the setting, would be they can manage their own finances, take responsibility for their own schedule without assistance, know how and when to use emergency and other community services, such as activating their internet service in a new apartment. So just a very quick example. I'll just give you the example of my son, Owen, at his new daycare in the 18 to 30 month old room. So when he enrolled in a new daycare in the 18 to 30 month old room, within a few weeks, the daycare providers noticed that he showed skills such as following one-step directions, readily imitating peers, eating table textured foods, cooperating with assistants to use the potty, some pretend play, sustained attention to individual activities for 5 to 10 minutes, lots of talking and emerging articulation. And so the daycare center decided that these skills were sufficient for him to be successful in a classroom with an older group of children. So they moved him to the 2 to 3 year olds room. And children with developmental delays would need essentially early childhood intervention to be directly taught those skills that Owen otherwise developed without any direct instruction, so that those children can be transitioned with their peers similarly. Okay, so quick example there. So examples of curricular areas. I want to give you some more examples and just keep repeating this here a little bit. Are for tool subjects, spelling and computer literacy. For academic subjects, math, science, and literature. For fine arts, it would be art, drama, and music. For vocational, cosmetology, agriculture, industrial arts. Functional would be communication, leisure, and recreation skills, learning strategies, self-care. For personal care, physical education, or PE, health, family, and consumer sciences. ASR 12. A critical difference between how individualized and standardized curricula are developed and organized is A. Standardized curricula rely on comprehensive individualized assessments. B. Individualized curricula are developed by a team based on comprehensive assessment, focused on personal long-term goals. Or C, individualized curricula are designed to help the student become a well-informed citizen, attend college, and acquire a profession. A few more seconds. Alright, I'll go ahead and close the poll here. The answer is B. A critical difference between how individualized and standardized curricula are developed and organized. The individual curricula are developed by a team based on comprehensive assessment focused on personal long-term goals. ASR 13, which poses a major problem for the use of a standardized academic curriculum for ASD, DD, or ID? A. The student may not have mastered the prerequisite skills to be successful. B. Comprehensive assessment is time and labor intensive. C. Teachers don't like the standardized curriculum. Or D. Curricular areas are emphasized based on the student's apparent post-school trajectory. A couple more seconds. Alright, I'll close the poll, and the answer here is A. A major problem for the use of standardized academic curriculum for these students is that they may not have mastered the prerequisite skills to be successful. ASR 14. Transition planning is legally required at age blank, but recommended starting with age blank. Is it A, 15 and 14, B, 16 and 12, C, 17 and 14, or D, 16 and 14? A couple more seconds. Alright, I'll close the poll, and the answer here is D. Required at age 16, recommended at 14. ASR 15, which is true? A. Potential post-school options guide transition planning, which involves drawing from different curricular areas. Or B. Curricular areas inform post-school options, which are achieved before transition planning. C. Transition planning relies on drawing from curricular areas to develop goals unrelated to post-school options before they are too far in the future. D. Transition planning comes before curriculum, which comes before post-school options. A couple more seconds. Alright, I'll close the poll, and the answer here is A. A is the only answer which describes the relation between post-school options, transition planning, and curricular areas. ASR 16. College, employment, and living are types of A. Curricular areas, B. Standardized curricula, C. Post-school options for students with autism, or D. All of the above. A couple more seconds. Alright, I'll close the poll, and the answer here is C. Post-school options for students with autism. ASR 17. Spelling and computer literacy are examples of which curricular area? A. Academic, B. Vocational, C. Personal care, or D. Tool subjects. A couple more seconds. Alright, I'll close the poll, and the answer here is D. Tool subjects. Alright, that wraps up this video part, and I'll see you in the next video part.